Well, friends, I know you're aware of what's going on in Mexico right now after the killing of El Mencho, which has caused chaos to erupt in Mexico, the retaliation by cartel members, especially in the state of Jalisco and specifically in Guadalajara, Puerto Vallarta. And we've seen this happen in Quintana Roo, all over the country. And so a lot of people are talking about Mexico and blaming Mexico and for for the ruining their vacations at a time when Mexicans are sheltering in place, don't have enough food, water, or supplies, weren't prepared for this because it was out of nowhere. And so, there's a lot of talk on social media about Mexico. I'm not going to Mexico anymore. But we live in the country that is the drug user. We are the addict. America is the addict. We are the number one consumer of illegal drugs in the world. And I have no moral issue with it. I would say I'm libertarian when it comes to that. Legalize it all. I have no problem legalizing any drug. And I'm not going to go into that why, but because there's no time. But I'm for legalizing everything to stop this because I think that's the only way. The prohibition has never worked and it won't work. The war on drugs doesn't work. But we are the drug user. We are the addict. We are asking for it. We launder the money, the largest transaction in the drug trade. We are the arms dealer. The American arms industry relies on illegal sales, the transfer of guns into Mexico. Um, and our own government has aided in this process. You could look at do some research as everybody talks about these days. You can research this. Okay, so we're supplying the guns. We're asking for the drugs. We're begging for it. We are laundering the damn money, you know, and and you're over here like an asshole in Puerto Vallarta. You're probably doing bumping lines in your apartment in Brentwood, and so you're bumping lines in your damn apartment, and then you're shitting on Mexico because your vacation got ruined. You're part of the problem. America's the biggest problem, but Mexican people are the victims of this violence. You're in your hotel, but it's Mexican people that are the victim of our drug use, our money laundering, our arms dealing. They are ducking from American made weapons. So have a little heart out there and have some empathy for the people of Mexico. Hey everyone, welcome to Taqueando. I'm your host, Bill Esparza, and this week we are talking all things Carne Asada, and I'm joined today with my producer, Robert Haleblian. Hey Rob.
Hey, Bill. It's been a very good week of reading some food journalism. I'm very excited. The New York Times just dropped its 25 essential Los Angeles dishes. Bill, you were a part of this article. How did that go? How was that experience?
Oh, well, it's amazing. Yes, I'm a food journalist. That's right. I do that too, folks.
In addition to some of the social media antics.
Right. Some of you think I'm a damn influencer. I get these DMs all the time. But, I'm a food journalist. Yes. So I got to take part in the 25 essential dishes in Los Angeles. New York Times just, came out. So pick up your copy or or read it on, get a subscription, okay? Support journalism. And I did get to write blurbs for Rosso Blue, which was really nice. I am a generalist. I know you guys see me writing about Latino cuisines a lot, but I am a generalist as well. I wrote about Rosso Blue. I wrote about Frutas Marquez. I wrote about Mariscos Jalisco and Burritos La Palma, all restaurants I love. And of course, the fruit vendor is a favorite of Chef Nancy Silverton. This list was put together by very local food celebrities. So Nancy Silverton was a part of it, and also Gilberto Cetina from Holbox, who we've a friend of the podcast. And so Yeah, it was their list. I was just right. It wasn't my pick, but I think I would definitely pick Mariscos Jalisco. I would definitely pick Burritos La Palma as, and Rosa Blue is a wonderful restaurant I love too. All those restaurants are great, and overall, I think people were pretty positive on this list. What do you think?
Yeah, I was so happy to see Burritos La Palma get love. I feel like there's so many different places like La Azteca Torteria. That's a spot that I could have seen on the list instead. But Burritos La Palma is it's in an area of LA that I don't see too many. LA food writers will go there and write about it. Hispanic food writers will go there and write about it. But for New York Times to kind of go into that weird corner, like just by the 605, is it El Monte? Is it this? It's a cool spot, and anyone who's been there knows how quality it is. It's very affordable. It's extremely consistent. Every single bite is extremely quality. I'm such a Burritos La Palma guy. So I was super happy to see it. Obviously, Mariscos Jalisco, that's a classic. I'm not going to argue about that.
That's undeniable. That place is
I've
undeniable.
been going to Correa's Mariscos more often, but that's just because he's a friend. That's just because that's what I like. But you got to respect the legends. So I think it was a great list. There's nothing that was omitted. Maybe some whole Bosch items, but maybe we're too. Maybe it's too. Maybe we're not ready for that yet. Maybe whole Bosch needs a couple years before it gets getting put in these lists. But the smoked Campachi tacos, why not? Luca brought that up on his pod. I could see that in the future. If they redo this list in 10 years, we can get a whole Bosch item there.
Yeah, I'm not a get my knickers in a twist kind of guy when it comes to these things. I mean, it's their list, and you know, uh, I'm okay with people's lists these days. Because I have the ability to do mine. If I want to
Right.
put my list out there, I will do it. I'll do my own 25 essential dishes. But I think it was I what I like is that New York Times. Obviously, to be a national publication is very difficult. You run the risk of offending this region or that region when you write. Uh, in general, New York Times gets a lot of haters when it comes to Mexican food recipes and things. So they have all these people that post white people and Mexican people, all kinds of like all angles they get hate, right? And I think with a list like this, they wanted to be sure they represented LA well, and I think they did that. And a lot of the comments I've seen are like, a pretty good list, fair list. I don't hate this, things like that, which I think to me you're doing a great job when you do that. As opposed to thinking about which two or three should have been on there or should not be on there. I think in general, I think people were happy with this list
Yeah.
and proud to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes. They all the success of that list comes down to the selection of who they had give input. Like, obviously, they reached out to the good food writers. That's easy for them. They're New York Times. They have access. But or having certain chefs contribute, like Gilberto. Gilberto is a foodie. Like, he goes out places. He knows.
Yeah, he
Some of
is.
these chefs are too busy to go try places, but he's not one of those. He makes an effort to go try new things. So I think that was really. I'm a sucker for industry professionals talking about the work of others, and I think you can kind of see with chefs, like some chefs, at least that we've interviewed, they kind of clam up. It becomes a weird thing of like talking good about your own food is feels like boasting. But when you can talk about someone else's food, they just go free reign and they get so happy. So I think it was a great
Yeah.
list for that reason alone, just to hear these chefs talk so passionately about each other's food. It was really inspiring and definitely a great read. Definitely one of the best articles this year so far.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So again, please show some support. We need print journalism. We need people to read. It's come on, uh, take a moment out of your day and read an article. But first, at Taqueando, eating antojitos is a way of life. From the world's most celebrated dining rooms to the gritty stands and storied market stalls that preserve culture. Life is short, so we must eat well. And here are this week's antojitos rundown. I was fortunate to attend the annual Cato restaurant, Chef John Yao, his uh, Lunar New Year dinner. And this year he did it with Fauna. So Chef David Castro Husong was there, and Chef Maribel, his partner, and also the pastry chef, both of them from Fauna, were there. I attend so many Fauna dinners, and I tell you, it doesn't get old. And it seems like everywhere Fauna is, I'm there. And the very first course, this mackerel dish I had, by John Yao. Chef John Yao was amazing. One of the best bites of the night. Even better though, he did this amazing seafood rice with all the scraps, like little piece, all the shellfish in the restaurant that they had to make stock, and that thing was unreal flavor wise. So nothing fancy, just a little foam on top, and the foam actually obscured the all the goodness it was underneath. It just looked like a very simple foam covering on a dish, but underneath it, this incredible seafood rice. I can taste it right now. It's so damn good. Um, Another thing that was unusual about this dinner, and I love the combination, by the way, of the two chefs, the three chefs, I should say, and amazing wine pairings. They brought wines from Broma, from Mexico, from the winery that's on the same property, as part of the same project as Fauna. The Cato dishes were paired with wines selected by sommelier and partner Ryan Bailey. I don't know if you guys know this, but Cato apparently has the largest wine selection, the wine list in definitely in Los Angeles and possibly California, or I they said some astounding fact that I didn't realize. You don't think of it, you can't see it. They don't have a big wall of wine or anything like that, but incredible. The champagne they served at the beginning, uh, opening up some big bottles of amazing wines throughout the meal. Um, but the cool thing that I'd never seen before is, Chef David Castro Husson doesn't like to do fancy food. If you've ever been to Fauna, it some of it's not even meant to be beautiful, really. It's very rough, and the presentation is very simple, and it's just his way of cooking. But he actually did a fine dining version of his dishes for the Cato setting, and you guys know the famous scallops, the scallop taco dish. They're poached callo de hacha, which are pen shell clams, in a burnt, like a roasted eggplant. So when you look at the dish, it just it looks very simple, but then you mix it up and you get that roasted eggplant. The first thing that comes to your mind is it's squid ink or something, but it's just charred eggplant, and it's got a lot of acid, or in there. Um, and so you get the scallops, the acid, the eggplant, and you're eating it with flour tortillas. And I think it's one of the best dishes. It's one of the best dishes I've ever had. It's the perfect dish, and he had it in a fine dining version. Tasted the same, and it was cool to see the flour tortillas all like folded neatly, like some fancy restaurant. But and then of course he had quail in a salsa the chile mije. He loves chile mije, and his carrot roasted carrots and bone marrow dish, which you make bone marrow and carrot tacos with the demi glace on the carrots. It's just amazing. So that was a fun way to start off the Lunar New Year. Um, and that's it. That's it for this week on Antojitos.
So, Bill, this week, speaking of recent eats, I wound up on Friday night at Taqueria Frontera, their new location. It was an amazing experience. I'm used to waiting in line, and which I don't mind. It's Taqueria Frontera. It's one of the best taquerias in the city. But this time, I got so much care and attention towards each of my tacos and burritos. It was an amazing experience. Obviously, Taqueria Frontera known for their pastor. That's why I was there. But I enjoyed a carne asada burrito. It was the first time I'd ordered something from there that wasn't pastor. And while I was eating it, I was having a great experience. That's just me. But I was reminded of a somewhat sobering analysis that you made on your Instagram stories a while back, comparing the different types of carne asada in LA and the different tiers of carne asada in Mexico. So I wanted to do this week's just do a straight deep dive into what makes carne asada so good and all things carne. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about carne asada. Carne asada is always such a safe bet at places you haven't been. Beef is integral in the American diet. We love our hamburgers. We love this. How did carne asada culture start in Mexico, and what are some of the origins of it becoming very popular?
Carne asada is arguably one of the most popular Mexican foods, Mexican dishes on the planet. It's something that everybody relates to because, especially, well, I would say here in the United States, we have a long steak tradition, American steakhouses. So the idea of something like that's a comfort dish, something that's known to us, something that's special to us, served in a tortilla with salsas, the Mexican flavors, I think has this added attraction and allure here in the United States. But it's also, you know, all over Mexico, even in the regions where carne asada is not uh, d- well done, no pun intended. Um, Carne asada is something families do when they get together. You know, Americans do hot dogs and hamburgers, and Mexico, whatever region you're in, people get together and do carne asada. And I want to distinguish the backyard carne asada that's in every family's backyard, all over in all 32 states, is not the carne asada of northern Mexico, the one that's an actual artisanal tradition, a craft. Um, so carne asada obviously originated in northern Mexico, and we're talking the states of Sonora. The most important ones are Sonora, Nuevo León, Coahuila, uh, Chihuahua, and also, you can also add in the states of Tamaulipas, and in more modern times, Baja California and Baja California Sur are the main carne asada states. There are transitional states like Sinaloa that has a very strong carne asada tradition. But these are the states that do it well. The cattle industry emerged in northern Mexico, as well as wheat was planted, which gave rise to flour tortillas. Now, flour tortillas have nearly a 500-year tradition in Sonora, and the cattle industry has hundreds of years of tradition there as well. And the you know it evolved into a high-end cattle, Angus cattle in the state of Sonora. Today, that's being replaced by American imports into Mexico, and there's a mix. So if you go to Sonora today, you're liable to get an American cut as well as you're going to get a local steak cut, right, from Sonora. But that tradition emerged there, and it's been going on for a long time. It's a family tradition there, but it's not like you're in Michoacan and you're just cooking steak and making a salsa. And it's elaborate there, and the family traditions there have all kinds of recipes and techniques that they've developed. And in the state of Nuevo Leon, the tradition, to me, they're like the Argentines or of Mexico. They cook whole animals. They cook huge cuts of steak, and they do it over slow flames. Like they're taking their time, like in the Argentine and the Seven Fires, the Siete Fuegos de Argentina. You're going to see some of that going on in Nuevo Leon, where you have steakhouses, and Hermosillo. It's a lot of street and backyard traditions that have emerged. So, what is carne asada? I think it's important. Now, when you went to Frontera, were they cooking over a mesquite?
They were not. They were cooking indoors on a grill.
Right. So this is not carne asada. Um, this is what I would call bistec a la plancha. There are other types of grills out there, and a lot of people are using lava rock, and I think lava rock is definitely better. You know, and this isn't to say that you can't get a great taco at these places. It's just not the tradition. And in the places where they do this very well, they would never consider using um, lava rocks or a flat top or anything like that. So right. So let's be clear. Frontera doesn't use a flat top. They're using like a lava rock or some kind of type of grill. And many places are doing that, and they're doing a great job. Okay, it's still a good taco, but carne asada is steak cooked over mesquite that's eaten with flour tortillas, sometimes corn tortillas, like in Tijuana, and it's dressed with a variety of salsas and vegetables, including the essential salsa tatemada, um, also known as salsa martajada. In Mexico, carne asada is cooked by professional taqueros that prepare family and regional recipes. Depending on the purpose, steaks are cooked thin and chopped fine as they are in Tijuana, or sliced into chunks as is the practice in Sonora. And in Nuevo Leon, it's whole cuts of steak, whole sides of whole animals, like a whole um, side of beef, cooked at a steakhouse, and that's served at both rustic and polished steakhouses. And steaks are rested, okay? This is another thing we're going to get into later. Steaks are rested, they are moist, no matter what the cooking is. Tres cuartos is the standard, that's medium well. And a lot of people say, no, I don't want a medium well steak. Well, that's what you're going to get in Mexico, but it's not going to be dry. It's going to be juicy. It's going to be tender because they're using fire control, and they're cooking over white hot coals that are fanned, and any flare ups are smothered with squirts of water. So when you go to a stand in Mexico, what I've observed over many decades of visiting all those states frequently is how attentive the taquero is and how skilled they are at producing a great product that has, you know, either if it's a fine steak that it has a lot of beef flavor, and if it's a thin steak meant to be uh, you know drowned in condiments like in Tijuana, that has a lot of smoke and salt. That's it. And the marinade for all these steaks, salt. That's it.
Yeah, automatically off the bat, it sounds to me like the biggest differentiator between LA and Mexico is the autonomy of the customer. It may sound like a bad thing, but it actually breeds better food. If a customer in LA is wanting something that's more cooked or less cooked, the business has to attribute for that. They have to change the way they do things. But from what it sounds like you're saying, in Mexico, the culture and the tradition is more of value than what maybe a single individual wants.
Well, no, I mean, also the customer is educated. The customer in Hermosillo, Sonora, is from Hermosillo. Their standards are very high. Just like if you go to, Naples, the people over there's a general understanding of Neapolitan pizzas that they have, that the average customer has. Hamburgers in Los Angeles. Come on, Rob, when you go to, where have you traveled lately? What countries?
I don't go anywhere, Bill.
You don't go anywhere. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. When I go to Mexico, I'm not eating a damn hamburger. I know
Yeah.
people are like, oh, there's nothing like a plancha burger in Mexico at midnight. No, you know what? There is that I wouldn't. I don't even want to know. I know that they don't make good hamburgers, right? So I'm from LA. I live here. I wasn't born here, but I've been here a long time. And our understanding of hamburgers, of what's a great burger here in Los Angeles, is super fine. Our skills are honed. Even people that don't know food know what a good burger is here in LA. So that's what you're dealing with. In Los Angeles, I was doing a story for Eater on Al Pastor last year before, on the best Al Pastor in Los Angeles. And I randomly walked in a line and I asked people, like, where you're from, and I just was, curious about how they heard about this taqueria. And one person was, they were like, yeah, we're from Honduras, but we were born here in the United States. Guatemala, El Salvador. Another guy's from Michoacan. Another person's from Oaxaca. And all I can say to myself, all I could think to myself was, what the hell do these people know about Tijuana style or Sonoran style carne asada? They don't. Now, that's not an insult because all those places have their version of carne asada. The churrasco in Guatemala is great, but it's not on the level of the cooking in northern Mexico. It's a very simple. It's just taking a cheap steak, cooking it, eating it with beans and a cold macaroni salad and some a little bit of a sauce and some grilled onions, and it's some more of a evening tradition, but it's not an an art, a craft, right? And so it's the customers, but it's also when you're eating carne asada, whether you're at Frontera or some of the other places that we're going to talk about later, is that these are tier 3 tacos in the hierarchy. That's my hierarchy, folks. All right, so you can't find this somewhere. But when we're talking about Tijuana, I'd say Tijuana, Mazatlan, Mexicali. We're talking the third tier of the taco hierarchy, the tacos de carne asada hierarchy. That means they're very good, but it's mostly these cities just have taco traditions. Now, In that tier three level, you do have Mexicali being, I'd say, superior to Mazatlan and Tijuana in terms of its salsas, its techniques, and the way they put it together.
When it comes time for me to actually go to Mexico and do my research, maybe I'm a taquero in LA that wants to learn, maybe I'm just a tourist that wants to eat some good stuff. What are some of the tier one locations where I can go and get the best carne asada taco culture?
If I were to pick one city on the planet where you can get all the traditions of carne asada, it's Hermosillo, Sonora. And that's a tier one city for carne asada. The other ones are Monterrey in Nuevo León and also Chihuahua. But I would say of those three, Hermosillo has a more comprehensive scene, and there you get everything. You get the carreta, the small cart, right? And they have these little smokestacks on the top of their cart, and then you have a taqueria that has an awning, like some kind of covered awning that's open, right? Then you have the fancy taqueria, sit down taqueria that's inside of a restaurant that has a wine list and and a more extensive menu. Then you have steakhouses that have cuts. You have steakhouses that sell paquetes, which are you buy a set of meats and sides. You have burritos, um, percherones, which are these big carne asada burritos, and they also have other types of fillings. And you also have the burritos de guisado, which you get in the morning, that have stews, but you can also get them with carne asada or just a carne asada burrito for breakfast. So you're eating steak all day long. It's morning, afternoon, night, all kinds of venues to get carne asada, and it's all cooked with different cuts. It's all cooked at a high level. Um, if I was just saying steakhouses, I would say if you want to go to a great Mexican steakhouse, you should go to Monterrey. You can find that in Hermosillo, but you find them more, and they're more fancy and elaborate, and they have incredible salad bars and wine lists. If you go to Nuevo Leon and go to Monterrey and have the steakhouse experience there. And they also have cabrito at these same steakhouses. You get spit roasted kid, you get all these beautiful cuts of steak. So I would say those two cities, if you really wanted to experience carne asada. Now, if you haven't been and haven't had that experience, and and again, this is no knock to any other place. Like Sonora town does not represent Hermosillo; they represent San Luis, which is a very simple tradition. I tell you what, they replicate that tradition and they've expanded on it and they've added an element to make it more Los Angeles. That's great. But they are really representing Asadero Campas so well. But that's a simple tradition. So if in your mind you're going to a Sonora town and you're expecting, all this thing that they're doing in Hermosillo or they're doing in Monterrey, you're not going to get that. So I think you can't expect these places to deliver that kind of life changing experience, given that they're very basic styles. So some of these are states and some of these are cities. Ciudad Obregon in Sonora is a tier two city. They
Got you.
have great steakhouses, and they have stands, but their taquerias are not on the level of the ones in Hermosillo. They're more simple. They also go flour and corn. They're actually they have a lot of influence from Sinaloa there, and so they're more starting to kind of drift into that Sinaloa style that you find in Culiacan, that you find in Mazatlan, and it's really great there. But like for me, if I'm going to be in Ciudad Obregon, which I've been many times, I'm going to go for the steakhouse. Like that's to me. The other thing they have there that's amazing is they have tasajo, and you're familiar probably with tasajo from Oaxacan cuisine. And so in Oaxaca, tasajo is what we'd call beef jerky, um, right? And so we've had it there at those types of restaurants. In Mexico City, it would be called cecina, like a soft beef jerky, right? But the tasajo in Sonora is like fancy steak that's cured, so it's like a really fine beef, fine soft jerky. So you can get great tasajo in Ciudad Obregon. You can get good taquerias. not the great ones that you have in Hermosillo, and not the range of taquerias, but and not as many steakhouses, but really good ones. The other city is Torreon, Coahuila, where you get again lots of really killer steakhouses, and you get some taquerias. Um, but if we narrowed it down to one, Hermosillo is unrivaled in depth, quality, and just flavor and fun. If you're a carne asada lover, that's your mecca. You should go there. Like everyone wants to go to New York to try pizza in the United States, you need to go to Hermosillo.
Okay, that sounds good to me. I mean, I'm sold already. Once we're there, what are some of the ways that we're going to be eating stuff, specifically in Sonora?
Yeah, I mean, again, in Hermosillo, it's an all day affair. So the first thing we're doing is we're going to for breakfast at the burrito de guisado places. And there we might get a combo like of carne con chile in a beautiful salsa roja made with chile colorado and some carne asada on top of it inside this beautiful sobaquera, tasty sobaquera tortilla that's super chewy. I mean, and the way it's so thin and the way it's wrapped, you get layers of the tortilla that kind of pull when you bite. It's such an amazing experience. So we're doing that, and then as it gets to the afternoon, you could stop at you could have lunch, like an executive lunch at a fine steakhouse with whole cuts of, you know, I've seen everything at these steakhouses. I mean, Rob, what's your dream cut that should be in carne asada?
Oh man, they're not around as often as they used to be, but that ribeye taco from El Ruso in Echo Park is the thing
Okay,
that I dream about the most.
so like a ribeye, right? So imagine going to a steakhouse where you get it's think of an American steakhouse in a sense that the same cuts that you can get there are available at these steakhouses. So you're talking ribeyes, aged ribeyes, cabreria, which is ribeye cap, porterhouse, a porterhouse for two, as carne asada, chateaubriand, ribeye, sirloin, uh, of ribs, of course, diezmillo and arrachera, the marinated cut that everybody talks about. In Sonora and in Mexico, there's only one marinated cut. Everything else is just, there might be aging sometimes, but it's just salt. The arrachera is a marinated steak, and it's not as popular as it is over here for some reason. Arrachera gets a lot of, oh my god, that's like, no, that's not even the most expensive cut. That's not even the greatest, near the top cuts in any of the states. Or a New York steak. So you're talking about full pieces of steak served with all the sides, so you can slice them and you can eat them with tortillas if you want. If you don't have to do that. And then, so for me, oh my god, the most amazing bite I ever had. There was a steakhouse. There is a steakhouse in Hermosillo that had a program for a while where they were doing, jamon iberico, but they were doing it with steak. So it was a
Mm.
cured cut of steak. I forget what the cut was, and it was aged by this guy. They brought in this guy from Spain to do it, and he was slicing it thin like jamon iberico. It was so much more fatty, and oh my god, it just was so delicious. I was mad that I went back and they didn't have it. Um, so you get things like that. You get aguachile de carne asada,
Wow.
like a ribeye aguachile. You get several types of cheese dishes, different types of salads. And the amazing thing is you get to the salad bar at some of these places, and they might have 30, 40, you know, salsas and condiments. At the stands, you're going to see at least eight. That's a lot for Los Angeles, but they're not just like, oh, we have a red and a green, but they're really thoughtful, salsas that have a tradition. The salsa tatemada is the most important, which is a roasted tomato, or tomatillo salsa. You have your bandera, which you and I know here as pico de gallo. You have, roasted chiles güeros. You have so many uh, different salsas. The what's it called? Salsa de chiltepín, um, salsa de chile verde tatemado, um, veneno is another topping that they have at the taquerias. Veneno is basically the confit scraps of the beef. So when they if they're at the stand and they trim beef, they take the trim and they cook it carnita style, like confit, and they serve that as like just a fatty topping for your tacos.
That
So
sounds
imagine
so
beef
good.
carnitas on right. So your ability to build an amazing taco in Hermosillo is assured at these types of places. And of course, they have these frijoles that are these really flavorful um, refried beans there. And on the menu, burritos de machaca, those sobaquera tortillas, frijoles charros, a salad of roasted Anaheim chili peppers, bone marrow,
Mm.
carne seca, chiles torreados, roasted chiles. So all kinds of stuff. Cilantro dip, it just goes on and on. It would blow your mind how many different salsas and types of sides that you can get. And then in the evening, you have three types of carne asada taquerias. You have the simple stand that might have one or two cuts. They'll just have like sirloin and maybe ribs, or sirloin and tripas. And they'll have those refried beans and maybe 8 different salsas. Always a salsa tatemada, always a salsa de chile chiltepin, um, and always cabbage. Cabbage is on top of all these tacos, shredded cabbage. Um, and then you have a place that has like the more large scale taquerias that have an awning. And again, if you haven't had that experience in Mexico, it's such a scene to be at some place where there's, 150 people seated at a taqueria, and it's just cranking out tacos to everybody. And it has a wonderful system, a huge salsa bar, and those places will have lots of cuts. Maybe they'll have the ribs, and they'll have New York steak, and they'll have sirloin, of course, and maybe they'll have um, the cabreria cut as well, the rib cap, ribeye cap. And then you have those taquerias, and then you have the really fancy ones that are a sit down restaurant with a wine list, and but it's still the same setup. You still get the same setup you get in those other places, just the ingredients are a little bit more fancy. They have fancier cuts. They'll be a cross between a steakhouse and a taqueria, because they can offer whole cuts of steak. And of course they're doing the ribeye aguachiles and things like that. And they might have some really interesting things at the salsa bar that you won't find at the street stands, because they can afford to. They're charging a little bit more, so their salsa bar is a little bit more elaborate. Then you have burritos, the the burritos percherones, where it's a large burrito in a sobaquera tortilla. Those are the handmade, thin flour tortillas that are the tradition of Sonora. And this is going to have carne asada, some cheese, guacamole, and then you have your salsas and stuff on the side. They don't put the cilantro and onions inside the burritos. That's another thing that we do in LA that doesn't make sense, because it starts to heat and cook the
Right.
cilantro, and I hate that flavor. Like a warm, runny cilantro and onions that that are not raw anymore, but they're not cooked either.
Hmm.
So you put those things on the side, and you eat them with every bite. And so you have all these carne asada experiences. And then you go on to, the other states, and they don't have as many venues, types of concepts for you to enjoy carne asada. You go to Nuevo Leon, again, you want to go to a steakhouse and you want to get your ajujas plate, or you want to get the cabreria or the cañita de ajuja, which is another type of ajuja cut, ajuja de ribeye, tablitas de filete, picanha, cowboy steaks, and these places are going to have tomahawks. Tomahawks are everywhere, but wouldn't you rather have a tomahawk when you're going to have tortillas and salsa?
Absolutely. I gotta start eating before we record these podcasts. Um,
Yeah.
One of the things I'm noticing, it seems like the options of quality are so much higher in Mexico. So, how many times a week are people even going and getting this over there?
Over there, you have a people are doing this a lot at home too, but you just have a steak eating. It's a steak eating culture, just like Argentina, just like Brazil. People don't eat at the Brazilian steakhouse all over Brazil as much as they do in the South. But if you live in southern Brazil, if you're in Rio Grande do Sul and you're in Porto Alegre, you're eating a lot of steak. If you're in Argentina and Uruguay, you're eating a lot of steak. And we've seen the photos. These people aren't, you know, heavy because they're eating a lot of meat. And it's the same thing in Nuevo Leon, Chihuahua, Sonora. They're eating a lot of steak. And they're also going to meat boutiques and they're buying really amazing cuts from the United States and Mexico and Argentina. And they're taking those home to make carne asada or steaks in their homes as well. So they're eating out at steakhouses a lot, um, to answer your question.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me like the expectation of diet is such a big factor between the differences in Mexico and the US. Like, I just think of just people that I know, regular people who work regular jobs in the US, that there's an expectation to eat some form of beef at the lowest possible quality throughout the day. Like, I think of like
Yeah.
a ground beef in a Taco Bell taco, or I think of, even somewhere like a King Taco where maybe it's just beef that's under seasoned and completely overcooked and the texture is just not what you want, but people will still eat that. We just have a low expectation of what it means to eat beef, and that seems to me like one of the biggest differences is that these different carne asada cultures and traditions in Mexico have a higher expectation anytime that they're putting something on the grill.
Yeah, it's the idea that high quality steak and craft is available to all classes, right?
Hmm.
You can go to a nice steakhouse in LA. LA is not a steakhouse city, not like cities in Texas. Chicago's a great steakhouse city. New York, cities in Texas, cities in Florida. A lot of parts of the United States have incredible steakhouses. We don't have that so much here in LA, and we just that's not our culture here. It's never been that the case. But if you could go to a great steakhouse every night in Los Angeles and afford to do that on a regular basis, you'd have the same quality at a fancy sit down taqueria in Hermosillo. And even some of these open air with the awning taquerias where you're getting pretty good pieces of steak, um, and down to the humble stand where you're still getting quality beef. And here, when
Mm.
you drop down in price, as you're saying, you're getting low grade beef, commodity,
Yeah,
uh,
slop.
the basic, consumable for human level
Yeah.
of beef, and so that's I think a big difference. And but again, I think the largest factor is culture, is people that understand that have they have super high expectations for what they're going to get at the taqueria. It's just like in Tijuana. If you don't make the guacamole right at the Tijuana style carne asada stands, you're going to go out of business. The,
Hmm.
the the guacamole has to be beautiful, and it should be just pure avocado, salt, and lime. That's it.
Great. So when we finally get to go and we're going to these tier one places and we're doing our carne asada pilgrimage, what are some recommendations that you have for us?
Okay. Is everybody ready? Is that influencer with a short attention span going to cry after I do this? I'm going to try to condense it, guys. Gosh. All right. So let's go to Sonora in the city of Hermosillo. Recommended is for a simple stand, tacos el chato. And I'm going to leave that to you to find it. But that just has two cuts of steak or one or two cuts of steak. It's a simple stand, 8 to 10 salsas and condiments, but it's so damn good. They got the refried beans. Ask for the refried beans on your flour tortilla. The flour tortilla is excellent. And that guy, I love his style there. He's got one of those box fans, and he turns it on right before he starts service to kind of get those coals. The coals are white. He gets them nice and red hot, so he's got that high heat. And then once it starts to smoke a little bit, he reverses the fan and sucks that air out and starts to cook. People go early. They'll wait 20 minutes, 30 minutes before he even starts so they can get those first tacos of tacos el chato. Now, another taqueria, next level up with a big awning, and a lot of covers, a lot of salsas, and a really high quality tacos del Chava. I love that place, and that you're going to get a lot of different cuts. You're going to get your cabreria tacos, a lot of different dishes, not just regular tacos and caramelos and lorenzas and things like that. You're going to get some other dishes that they do, and you're going to get that aguachile de ribeye. And then for burritos, Taqueria Doña Guille. You've seen this place on social media. It's super famous there for incredible tortilla sobaquera and all the guisados, but you also can have a great carne asada there. There's no bad carne asada in Hermosillo. There's mediocre, but nothing bad. For the packets, El Leñador. That's when you order like your cabreria packet that's going to come with tripas and ribs and cabreria, and it's going to have your onions. It's going to have, your salsas on the side, your guacamole, and you're going to make tacos. You're going to make your own tacos. Oh, they also give you quesadillas that are amazing. So you're going to make your own tacos there. Help yourself to the salsa bar. That's endless. It's just so many. There are so many salsas. Make, if you're going to make 5 tacos, you can have 5 different experiences with that salsa bar. For a fine steakhouse in Hermosillo, Steaks del Herradero. That's where I had that incredible cured beef experience. Get a fancy ass piece of steak. Get yourself a nice Malbec. Get yourself a queso panela, a grilled queso panela with some seasonings on it, and go to town. For burritos, percherones, go to Percherones Los Campeones. Wonderful place. And so that's a basic guide of all the carne asada experiences you can have in Hermosillo. Now, in the city of Monterrey, again, you're not looking for tacos de carne asada. They don't really have stand. There are some places that you can get it here and there, but that's not what their specialty is. You want to go hit up the steakhouses. The fancier, the better. Okay, you have to go to El Mirador for the ajujas. Oh my God, and order that. Get the whole sides and everything. It's such an amazing experience. El El Gran Pastor is wonderful. I'm sorry. El Gran El Gran Pastor is great for cabrito and also steak. So go there. Another one that's amazing, El Gaucho de Monterrey. Go there and get that shit. Okay, fancy steakhouses. So those are ones that you should hit. If you want to get out of town, and if you're crazy about steaks like we are here, go to La Enramada. It's a little bit out of town. It's located in the town of Cadereyta Jimenez. So go there and have a wonderful steak experience as well. All right, moving on. Moving on. You keeping up here? So go to Chihuahua. In Chihuahua, you have the steakhouses. Again, Cortes Finos Añejos is great. El Rodeo de Chihuahua, wonderful. La Carboneria in Ciudad Juarez is another one. If you just want to cross the border and hit that one, if you don't want to drive all the way to Chihuahua, amazing steak experiences. By the way, you're going to find fajitas at all these places. For all you fajita haters, especially you chilangos, I want to remind you that fajitas are not so far from alambres. Okay, so you guys are crazy about alambres in Ciudad de Mexico, and you're like, oh, that's Mexican, and fajitas are like American or Mexican American. Well, fajitas are cooked in these places over mesquite, so they're a form of carne asada. And I love alambres, but they're cooked on the plancha and they're not superior to stuff that's cooked over mesquite. That's closer to Mexico and the original flavor of smoke than a fucking planchas. So get out of here with that shit. That argument is coming for you on all social media platforms whenever you post that stupid shit.
As a fajita hater, I think I've been cornered in this round. I gotta admit defeat on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if you're a fajita hater, I always assume you're just ignorant. You can say that's not your preferred thing, and that's fine. But fajitas are great at these steakhouses. Feel free to order them. Coahuila, in the city of Torreon, you want to go to Brasa and La Majada, which also has cabrito and fine cuts of steak. Now, the specialty dish that I don't know a lot of people haven't talked about this dish, but they have a big giant ass burrito in Coahuila that are called tortillones. And so you can go to Tortillones Don Lolo and get your tortillon. It's a giant carne asada burrito, and you can have all kinds of fillings inside. You can even have a guisado inside, avocado, salsas, all kinds of things to make your giant ass burrito. So when people say Mexico doesn't have big burritos, I say try the burrito percheron in Hermosillo, in Sonora, and try the tortillon in Coahuila. Also, El Asadorcito in Coahuila, another great place. And Ciudad Obregón, another great carne asada city. Not as good as Hermosillo. They're not, you know, when people say Sonora style, I think that's kind of ridiculous because that's, yes, they are Sonora style, but Sonora has more than one thing. Hermosillo, Ciudad Obregón are very different. So in Ciudad Obregón, I'm going to go to Mr. Steak. I know there's others. People always tell me the other one I should go there. I'm like, you know what? I love Mr. Steak, and I like that other one too. But I'm going to Mr. Steak. You know, can I fucking eat where I want?
You're allowed to eat
You know
wherever you want, Bill.
why? And so are you. Okay, unless you're okay. Fly me there. Pay. Get the hotel room and first class tickets, please. And I'll go to the damn place with you that you want me to eat at. Another one, restaurant, another one that you want to try in Ciudad Obregón for that tasajo. Restaurante La Cecina de Plano Oriente for that experience, the cecina or the tasajo. Mazatlan, I'm going to give you two recs there. You want to go to Tacos Huicho, a great place. And again, I know there's a lot of places. Everybody has favorites. I'm not saying this is the best. You know, I don't this best bullshit. You can skip me with that conversation. I don't care what you think is the best. Tacos Huicho is great. If you don't like it, you're dumb. Okay, you have no palate. Tacos La Tia y Juan, wonderful. They have, you want to get the chorreadas there, right? The chorreadas and the vampiros are the specialty of Mazatlan. And at Tacos La Tia y Juan, they have these giant chorreadas that are amazing. Um, Tijuana, okay, in Tijuana, another great. This is what I like about Tijuana is you can get other traditions besides Tijuana style, and let's start with El Vaquero. El Vaquero is the best carne asada experience in Tijuana. It's Sonora style, of course. They've added some adjustments for the Tijuana market. They do offer corn tortillas as well. People in Tijuana, they like the corn. They like corn tortilla. People in Tijuana love corn tortillas. Okay. Tijuana is very straightforward. Okay. It's a tier 3 city. Um, the greatest, I think, place experience you can have is to go to El Nuevo Poblano. And I love this place. It's not only just the food, it's the service, it's the experience of this large scale taqueria. And again, that's the Tijuana style. It's just simple, thin steak cooked over mesquite very quickly. It's rested in hotel pans so that it retains its moisture. It's then chopped, and you have that flavor of the grill and the flavor of salt. Simple, but the main thing people in Tijuana want is that guacamole, the tomato sauce, which is not a salsa tatemada. It's usually boiled tomatoes, and it's mild. If you want spicy, you can ask for something spicy, or you can get a chile torreado. So don't complain or cry about the salsa not being hot. Just bite the chile. Okay. So El Nuevo Poblano, El Ruso. This place is the place you should start in Tijuana. It has one taco on the menu, carne asada, and those guys are masters at it. So homemade corn tortilla, carne asada, guacamole, uh, salsa de tomate, onion, cilantro, and that's it. It's perfect. It's a perfect taco. And then for carne asada, tortas washmobile, a classic. Mexicali. Now, they step up from Tijuana. They go to flour tortillas, and they have a lot of salsas. They have a lot of cuts of steak, and the steaks are thick and sliced just like they are in Sonora. So the place that you have to, I would say one of the greatest taqueria experiences of your life is to go to Asadero Acatlan de Juarez. You would not believe. They do like 5,000 covers, maybe more on a Saturday. They're open 24 hours.
Wow.
They have a car service, a drive-through service. They have a to-go service. And you walk in and you're seeing all these tables and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to get food, you know? And within moments of sitting down, the salsas are arriving on two like lunch trays. It's there's so many salsas, and then they're taking your order. The tacos arrive quick. There's so many salsas. Forget about the photos. Just to get to all the salsas and figure out your combinations, you want to do it quick because those tacos are getting cold. So I have, to me, you win when you walk in the door at Asadero Acatlan de Juarez. You win when you walk in the door, my friends. El Pirul is amazing. Tres Pablos, also an incredible carne asada taqueria. These are, in the third tier, but they are a step above Tijuana and Mazatlan. Okay, and there you're going to get asada, arrachera, taco chile, and volcanes, which are very similar to the vampiros, right? And now I'd say that's a great list of carne asada places in Mexico. So if you want to do that whole tour, you know, um, invite Rob and I.
Please,
Get us plane tickets. We'll be your guides. Okay,
please.
take us, because I could do this honestly. I went twice last year to Hermosillo, and I could do it every month. I could do it every month. Carne asada is not just hype. It's one of the perfect taco expressions that everybody loves.
In LA, though, the origin of this rant and this expose and this information dump on your stories was that you feel like LA can do better. Now that you've established the culture and the history and the tradition of Mexico, what are some things that LA taqueros can do now in order to improve their carne asada tacos?
The first thing they can do is learn to cook steak.
Easier
I
said
mean,
than done, but yes.
when you're dealing with carne asada in Mexico, you have taqueros that have years experience. There's an apprentice system in Mexico. There's people start young. You ever go to a taqueria in Mexico and there's like there's a 10-year-old boy taking change and he's grabbing things. So he's already started to work and he's being trained already. It's going to be years before he gets on to prep, you know, and then he gets to actually cook and start to be a real taquero. And so by the time he's in his late teens, he might start working in that profession. So it's not like some guy that opened a stand that's never cooked before. We know that's an LA thing. I've never cooked before. I'm just going to serve this to you and see what happens. And and then they're hiring their friends that don't know how to cook. And they're not only are they not taqueros, because if you told me if I you asked me for would I choose a team of taqueros or a team of chefs of Michelin star restaurants, I would take the taqueros. The chefs don't know what the fuck they're doing when it comes to this thing, you know, and so I want people that have experience doing this, style of cooking. So we need, if you're not gonna invest the time to learn the craft, I think there's a certain basic level of cooking that needs to happen. Now, I've gone, I did a negative review over a year ago of Los Cholos. Now, Los Cholos, I have to say, those guys, their concept really works for LA, for the LA Latino community in the neighborhoods they serve. They serve the Latino community well, and they serve a diverse Latino community that are from Central America, different parts of Mexico, people that don't have this. They're not coming in with the baggage of I'm from Sonora and it should be this way. Um, for them, it's a step up from the plancha tacos they were getting at the taco trucks a decade before. This
Right.
is like, oh my god, it's cooked over fire. That's the way it's supposed to be. But I went there recently, and I'd say it was better than the first time I went, but they're still making the same mistakes. And what I see at a lot of taquerias, at Angels, all these types of places. And again, this the people that are in line don't give a fuck about this shit. So you're not worried about whether they're cooking it right or wrong. I understand that. Those places work really well. And I'm not saying um, in the grander scheme, they're not doing a good job. But for the Latino community in Los Angeles, I'd say they are definitely serving the community right, because the numbers don't lie. The people that line up for these things, and but what I see happening again, I walked into Los Cholos. They had a sky high flame. That's a no no. Sky high. The flame was leaping above the stakes, right? And there was no effort to take care of that. There was no water bottle nearby. They're just like, oh, just throwing steaks and cooking. And one thing I did see one time there is that they did that, and of course, what happens? The outside gets cooked, but the inside isn't. So they chop it up now. Now the steak's going through stress. It hasn't rested yet. It's being chopped to by a knife that's not sharp, and then it's being thrown on the plancha and then quickly tossed around to cook that inside, and then it's being thrown somewhere else. And by the time it gets to your tortilla, it's all dry, and it loses its flavor because it did not benefit from that slow cooking time, and it's not getting smoke. It's being smothered by flames, and that's bad cooking. So I would say that that's it. You got to cook with white hot coals, no flame. You can use, I see your people, man, Armenians. There's a stand that does wraps on the street, and that guy has a little fan, like he gets from a hardware store. He's got a fan, and he uses it to get the heat.
Yep.
But you never see high flames. You
Yep.
see either red or white on the coals, and and then when I was at El Russo the other day, just a few weeks ago, the guy had a squirt bottle and the flames came up and he squirted, misted the flames out, and because that's not good cooking, right? It's going to mess up his cook. So I'd say that's where it needs to happen. Salsas need to match the style of cooking. So whatever, you're not doing Sonora style. Sometimes people are just like, I'm just going to get like salsas that I like. Okay, that might be a good salsa, but it might not work
Hmm.
for the the dish you're trying to do. So make sure the condiments are right. That you have a tatemada, that you have salsas that work with your style. Mostly though is the tortilla. And I'm not talking about using also Los Cholos uses corn tortilla, which I don't get. They have a small corn tortilla that's not
Hmm.
very good, and they really stack it, right? They stack the carne asada on there, and so when you put the salsas, it's so like the meat's so pushed together, and you can like you
Yeah.
start to pick it up, and half the thing's falling off, right? So either you brush it off, and then you're just going to eat dry steak on its own, and then when you put the condiments on, they just sit on top. They don't fall into the tortilla.
Hmm.
So on the bottom, you're getting. So when you're biting dry steak and tortilla, and you're not getting to the condiments except for the top, the roof of your mouth. But when you go to Hermosillo, you go to Tijuana, the tortilla can absorb all those salsas. That all that guacamole they put on, there's room for it. There's room for all that tomato sauce. And all that liquid. In Hermosillo, there's room for the 4 or 5 toppings you put on, plus the veneno and all that stuff. It fits in the tortilla. So the tortilla has to fit the concept. If the idea is, well, I just want a corn tortilla, let's get a good corn tortilla. Okay, well maybe it's a good corn tortilla. Maybe it's a good corn tortilla for you, but it doesn't work with the damn dish. So you
Yeah.
have the concept has failed. I can see failure in the concept. I don't, and the salsas aren't working for me, and they don't blend in. There's no real estate for them. So I think that's why when people, I'd say some people that I know that have talked to me about like, how come you're so like, oh, about regions, why aren't you open to people doing their own thing? Well, I'm open to doing your own thing if it's actually good.
Hmm.
But the regions, why I like to go to a Mazatlan style or a Tijuana style taqueria in Los Angeles is because if they have the concept right, then it works. The salsas, everything works. And some of the places we're going to name here, they're not going to necessarily blow your mind, but they're just. I always tell people come with me. I'm going to say this is a good, solid Tijuana style carne asada, and this is just good steak, simple salsas. Don't if you're coming here with like, how come I thought that Tijuana was the best and that Sonora was the best, and like I should have this experience. You're having an expectation that's not ever going to be there. So I think you need to temper your expectations and understand what it is. What am I having? Oh, that's a very simple dish. It should not have overly complex flavors and things happening. And so that's what I think needs to happen. And there's only a few places in Los Angeles that I'd say are doing these things very well.
Yeah, man. I think going back to what you were saying earlier about some of the justifications for keeping the same process, I think these are all good things to learn regardless, because I think that the lines don't stay long forever, and having the knowledge on how to improve the quality of the product that you're making is important. Like that is how you in the long run keep your business open. Like you look at some of the places that stay open for generations, maybe not with Carne Asada, but it's places like Mariscos Jalisco that we talked about earlier. They're places that understand the technique and how they can do that when they have a steady flow of customers or when they have a line. Whereas some of these places like Los Cholos, there is that, just I understand like when there's a rush and there's a line, I know how that panics somebody behind the line, but having this heat blasted is not going to make the meat cook faster. Having these dull knives and just chopping up this meat and bruising it and essentially pre-chewing it on the cutting board is not going to get those juices into my tortilla. So I think it is important for these places to learn, because yeah, like Angels may have long lines now, but is that going to be the case 5, 10, 15 years from now? Probably not. So I think these are really good tips for these taqueros, these line cooks, these taco brigade employees to learn. Um, Given that you've laid out these tips pretty well, you've given us good places to go on our pilgrimage when we hit Mexico. What are some places within LA that you think we can go and see a carne asada taco culture that is really doing it right?
Yeah, well, my personal favorite in LA, my personal favorite style are the vendors from Mazatlan, the from Sinaloa, because that style again, it's a style that's a little more dynamic than the Tijuana style. So the one that's the best at it is Tacos La Carreta, and I think their their Torito taco is one of the best carne asada experiences you can have in Los Angeles. The Torito, that's the one with the chile, the grilled, the roasted Anaheim, roasted and peeled Anaheim chile, cheese, and carne asada that's cooked very well over mesquite. The one and the salsas are all correct. Again, I have a friend. Again, the criticisms are again a lack of understanding of that style. A friend of mine who I very much respect their taste in food, and she said, "Well, it's just not spicy enough for me." I'm like, "Well, it they don't eat that way in Sinaloa. They don't like spicy salsas. So the salsas are very mild at La Carreta. And you can ask for a chile, ask them to, again, ask them to roast a jalapeno for you or give you a raw jalapeno and you can chase it if you just want heat. You can get that, right? Or, be a real vato and carry your own chile chiltepin in your pocket and put it on there.
That's a power move.
That's a power move, like Chris, man, Chris in the Selena movie, carrying his own hot sauce for the pizza. You know, so you do that. So I love tacos la carreta. Sonora Town is a perfect um, consulate for San Luis, for Asadero Campas. Um, other Don Cuco for Tijuana style. Don
Mm,
Cuco does a wonderful job for me. So I love going there in East LA. Los Poblanos is very good. Tire Shop is good. The other Sinaloenses, Tacos El Ñoño. That's one that's out in the Riverside area. That's a little far, but they're also really good. A little closer with a very boring name. Guys, come on, come up with something better. Tacos al Carbon, Estilo Sinaloa, and they're related to the Tacos La Carreta family, so they're from the same town of El Verde, Sinaloa. That is also a great one. There's lots, and they're popping up everywhere. I'm seeing lots of people from Sinaloa doing carne asada, so I look for those ones. And so far, La Carreta remains the most consistently great experience that's close to me. Ñoño is wonderful. I've only gone once, and it's just very far. Um, and as far as Sonora, the one I'm dreaming for, the one I'm waiting for, in regards to Hermosillo, I am dreaming and hoping and waiting for an Hermosillo style place to drop. In terms of so not for me, but for you, I want you to experience it. I would love for you to see what it can be, or a real Mexican steakhouse that's regional from that area, so you can experience that. Because Hermosillo is not a big tourist destination, and people, everybody's going to uh, Mexico City. They're going to Oaxaca. They're going to, they're going to Valle de Guadalupe. They're going to Cabo, but not many people are going to Monterrey. That is an amazing city for carne asada and food in general. I love going to Hermosillo for surf and turf. Incredible seafood, incredible steak, incredible regional food, and antojitos too. And so I just wish it were here for you. But I'm also fine with just getting on a plane and going there. But if you really want, first of all, it has to be over mesquite. That's why all these places I listed, they all cook over mesquite. No knock to the places that aren't. And I understand it's hard. I understand it's a challenge. The city, does not make it easy. They're making these people pay the same prices for some big ass restaurant like Maidan Market that has, a huge open fire area, but they have the volume of customers to support that. A small taqueria, like what Sonora Town is doing, I applaud them for really doing it, the most right out of everybody, of having a real hood and a mesquite grill and offering that. And so I want to can't we reward the people that are going the extra mile? Can't we do that?
Are you saying we need to give Sonora Town a little bit of a plaque for Taqueando? Best attempt?
Sonora Town, La Carreta, we can all these tire shop. I would rather go to tire shop if I want carne asada than a place that's doing it on a flat top or lava. It's just the principle of it. Um, it would never happen in Hermosillo. No plancha tacos. No, oh, you would go out of business. Okay. We're going to reward and we're going to punish those people. No, we're not going to punish them. I like all those places. I just don't love them. I don't crave them.
It's all out of love, Bill. It's all because we want the
It's all
best for
love.
them. This is why we do these things. Well, that's a great deep dive, Bill. I appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate putting that list together. A simple Instagram story can be an hour and a half, hour long podcast episode. Who knew? Today we tested that theory.
Yes, my wonderful followers, I love you. And, often interact with me on these things, and I see them out there criticizing people's tostadas, and sending them to me. Said, oh, this guy, but what I love most is the chefs. A couple chefs that have DM'd me and said, I've actually now started to change my plating on the tostadas, or they're also looking for carne asada that's over mesquite. So, ultimately just education for the community. And, I for all the people in the line for angels, I don't hate. All I can say is provecho, enjoy.
Well, I'll be there this weekend, hopefully. Um, if anyone wants to read more materials, Bill, I hear there's a book out there that they can get a copy
Yeah.
of and dive deep.
Yeah, it just occurred to me today that on my own podcast I should promote my book. Hey, it's right there in the background.
There you go.
LA Mexicano. And what LA Mexicano is, it's a wonderful snapshot. It's almost a decade old, but it's a wonderful snapshot of the emerging Mexican styles of cooking in Los Angeles. It's 30 restaurant profiles and 30 recipes from those restaurants, plus a guide, a neighborhood guide, a restaurant guide. And, again, so much has happened since LA Mexicano. And hopefully, we sell a few more copies and volume 2 comes out, and we'll talk about all this stuff that's happening because we're in a whole other era right now. And you can also follow me on Instagram, Street Gourmet LA. TikTok, I'm gonna get more action on there, but I'm on TikTok, same handle. Um, I'm on what's it called? What's the streaming one? I just started that one. I don't know what to
Twitch?
do with it yet. I'm on Twitch.
Oh my goodness. This is shocking to me.
I'm on Twitch. Yeah.
Great.
So it's Street Gourmet LA across the board, and that's how you can find out what I'm writing about, where I'm eating, stuff about the podcast. And thank you guys all. It's episode 43, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
I never thought I'd make it this far.
Well, that's going to be it for us this week. Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you for tuning in to the Taqueando podcast this week. And be sure to tune in next week for another episode. And please leave us a rating or review wherever you listen to your podcasts.